Hey, it's Dorleen. Welcome to my channel. I'm working on another layout today. This layout is using a sketch from Sketch and Scrap, and you can see all the details on my blog, which will be, the link will be down below, or also on the Sketch and Scrap blog. So I decided to stamp my embellishments for this layout. I'm doing a layout on our summer reading marathon, and I'll talk about that later. But basically, I stamped the images, and these are all from Close to My Heart, onto some white paper. This is not watercolor paper, although I am using a water brush and some ink pads to add the colors. But it's just such a very little bit of water that it didn't warp the paper, and plus this paper is amazing. I got this paper at cutcardstock.com. Again, details will be down below. So basically I just use a water brush and some ink and just apply some color to the images. Now I'm only coloring the young lady. I'm calling her young because this is supposed to be me. But anyhow, when I do skin tones or any kind of flesh tones, I don't like to use a water brush or other kind of medium. The best thing for that, in my opinion, are the alcohol markers because the blending is so much easier. No streaks or anything like that. So I have one of those tri-blend markers that have 3 different tones, and so that's what I'm using for the skin tone and also the hair. So once I'm all done, I didn't show you that I colored in the books, but I basically did all the books as well. Once it dried, just for a minute, because like I said, very minimal water, it didn't take too long. I just used a sharp pair of scissors and just fussy cut around them. So now I'm working on the actual layout. Here is the sketch that I'm using, and it's very compressed as far as all the colors and the papers in there, and that's why I decided to use it. So I just grabbed some scrap papers that I have, different colors. I went really light because one of the shirts in the main or the focus picture is a pink shirt, which by the way I made using my Cricut and some vinyl. And so I was thinking of, I wanted to just use light colors based on that. Now these just happen to be some of the books that I read. I don't normally take pictures, but I found them on Instagram, my own Instagram, and thought, well, let me just use them. I do keep a list, of course, of the books we read. My daughter and I have a summer reading marathon. We've been doing this since she's been 6. She's now 29. And basically it would start the day after the last day of school and stop the day before the first day of school. And we would read as many books as we could. And then whoever read the most books would get treated to Baskin Robbins by the other person. Now you can imagine at 6, between 6 and probably 18, I was treating either way, but that's okay. So anyhow, I cut those strips of scrap paper to 8.5 inches wide, and then as far as that length, and then as far as width, they just varied, and I just cut them enough to where they all fit. And I'm just kind of arranging where I think I'm going to put these stamped images, and for the most part that is where it ends up. Excuse me. And that round circle, which you didn't see me stamp, is also from the stamp set, and that is going to be I'm going to use that as my title. And so now I'm just adhering where I want those blocks of paper. I'm using my T-square ruler to make sure that that top one lines up. Since the other ones are stacked, it was pretty easy to make those line up. I just pretty much stacked them right on top of each other. I really like this lined paper that I'm using for the base because even though it's very light, so it looks just like a solid white, it has a little bit of interest as well. So like I was saying, I wanted the one with the shirt as my kind of focus photo, and that photo is about 3¼ inch high, and so I used my trimmer to trim down all the other photos so they'd all be the same height. They didn't necessarily have to be, but I think it just looked better that way. So I left a gap, obviously, in the middle where I was going to put those pictures. Now, I didn't want it to span across the whole 12-inch page because if you remembered what the sketch looked like, it had another blocks of colors kind of going horizontally. So that's where that blue scrap comes in. And instead of doing a whole 12-inch strip, I just put in or cut strips that would cover both of this right and the left sides, which I'm doing right now. And again, giving the illusion that it goes across the entire page, but don't tell anybody that it's not. So I just, like I said, I'm just kind of fiddling with the papers, or excuse me, the photos, so that it goes all the way across. Now, excuse the glare. I have, well, if you follow me, you know, we have what we call the sun in our craft room. It's basically one of those fluorescent lights that are probably supposed to be like in a garage or like workroom, something like that. But it's really bright and it's really perfect for lighting in our craft room, but it can be pretty bright. And that's why we call it the sun. So basically I'm just adhering those two blue strips using the T-square ruler again. And I always say that even with the T-square ruler, my stuff is never straight, but it really does have a purpose, and it does help line up those papers that are supposed to appear to look like the same, one long strip, and even though they're not, but it keeps them even when you have them so far apart. I realized as I had adhered all these papers that I was going to emboss each of these paper blocks or blocks of paper, which once I adhered them, I realized, oh my God, I completely forgot. So what I decided to do is just do some, using the Versamark ink, which is like a clear ink, and stamp just random little images. So there's a book, there's a heart that says, I think I love books, or just maybe books inside it. And then the other one was like a quote that was part of that stamp set. So I just did that across 3 of the blocks, that really pretty, I don't know, salmon color on the bottom. I didn't bother to do that. So up in the top, what I was pointing out, now in the sketch, it shows to have scallops, pretty large scallops up going across the top. I decided I'm going to use my books to do that, which you'll see in a minute. It looks really cute. So on this little circle, I decided to also use this not only as a title, but as a journaling block. So I just hand drew some lines. I'm also outlining the outside circle, and then I'll start my journaling. Very simple summer reading marathon 2021. And when I was writing this, I thought that I had won that year, so I had put something like I won the marathon reading, and I couldn't remember how many books. I have them listed, so in the meantime, I just left it enough room to put a number there, and I'll fill that in later, and I'll tell you who actually did win. But anyhow, so I just pointed out that I was going to do those scallops up on the top, or use the books as the scallops, and that circle as the title right there on that kind of the middle of the page, but towards the right. So now I just decide I'm going to stack those books, and I really, really like the way this looked. I cut off some of the books because I wanted the bottom, I don't know how to say this, to make it look more natural of a stack, because there were some that got really kind of small at the top, so I thought there wouldn't be a little really thin stack of books in the middle of it. It's so stupid, and it's such a small detail, like nobody would even pay attention to, but for whatever reason I felt I had to do it. I did not adhere the circle down because I kept thinking I wasn't sure I wanted to do something different with that. So I had to restamp some more of those books, because obviously I only had done 2 in the first place. So as I was doing that and kind of letting that dry, I kept looking at this layout thinking it still just needs something. I know there's a lot of color going on, but in a sense they're all kind of light, except for maybe that blue. So then I grabbed my stitching stamp, or faux stitching, oh my God, faux stitching stamp, and some gray ink, and did some stitching on all of the blocks of the rectangle blocks except for the blue, and I did like that a lot better. And later, which I don't show, I end up putting some splatter in a couple of spots too, but you'll see that when I show a close-up of the actual layouts and the finished layout. So I decide to use my liquid adhesive to adhere those books. Now I like to use a liquid adhesive because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and I knew that if I had used my tape, that stuff is strong, man. Like, you accidentally put that down, it's stuck there. And since I wasn't, I had to lift up the pictures a little bit and then tuck it in. I did not want them to get stuck floating. I not needed the books to be underneath the photos. So I was going to mat that circle or the title, but I didn't feel like grabbing my circle cutter, so there was a strip of blue there, and so I decided to do a little fishtail banner instead. So I cut off the edges. You saw me doing a minute ago, and just use that, and I thought that looked good. I did do a thumbs up because I thought, well, I was happy with it. I hope you are too. If you think I should have matted that circle instead with a larger circle, let me know. But anyhow, I really like this layout. I hope you did too. Pretty simple. There's a lot going on with all the stamping and stuff. By the way, we've both read 12 books. It was actually a tie that year. But thanks for watching, and I hope you decide to subscribe to my channel. I do at least 2 videos a week. One is always scrapbooking, and the other is whatever it is I'm creating in the Command Center, which is the name of my blog and also my craft room. Thanks for watching. Bye.